Hey, welcome back to Livin MN Outdoors. I'm Daniel, and thanks for tuning in to another fishing report. Like usual, guys, if you use any of the guides or resorts mentioned in today's report, please let them know you saw them on Livin MN Outdoors. And with that being said, let's dive right into this week's fishing report. Alright, this week we're going to start up on Mille Lacs Lake. The bite on Mille Lacs has been solid all year long. This past week or two, the smallmouth bite got a little bit tougher, but it was still pretty dang good. Now, as far as where to find the smallmouth right now, you can find them up in shallow still, 6 to 10 feet of water, or you can find them all the way out to that 22 to 24 feet of water. Now, if you're targeting them up in shallow, top waters, jerk baits, hair jigs, or Ned rigs and drop shots are working. If you're going to target them out in that deeper water, drop shots and Ned rigs are the way to go, as well as a lot of people have been catching them on slip bobbers with night crawlers and leeches. Now, if it's windy and overcast, you can find a lot more of them fish up in shallow. They're not quite so spooky. If it's dead calm and blue skies, the majority of those fish will be out deeper. You're going to have to park a ways off of them and make long casts to avoid spooking them. Now, as far as the walleye bite goes, the walleye for the most part have journeyed out to the deep gravel. They're out on the mud flats, that 26 to 32 feet of water. That is where the majority of the fish are. That doesn't mean you can't find them up in shallower than that, but the majority of the fish are being caught out in that deeper water. Now, some of the best techniques to catch those fish, like usual out on Mille Lacs Lake, a slip bobber and a leech is king, but people are picking up fish on spinners with Lindy rigs and bottom bouncers. Also trolling some lead core with crankbaits is producing some fish as well. Now, some of those areas to target, 4, 5, 7 mile, some of those deeper mud flats on the north or west side are producing some really nice fish as well. So if you want to get out and target some walleyes right now, those are some good options out on Mille Lacs. Now, as far as the pike bite goes, the pike bite is continuing to pick up as the water warms. Cove Bay, Walk-On Bay, Isle Bay, those are 3 great areas to target those fish. Pulling big spinner baits, spoons, or large crankbaits is producing some really nice fish out there. Now, as far as the perch, now that people are out fishing the deeper gravel and mud, a few more reports of perch are coming in. They're getting them along with the walleyes, either on slip bobbers or on spinners, and they are pulling in some pretty nice perch. Now, as far as the musky bite goes, there still are those shallow musky bites on the deep weed edges, in the bays and on the north end. Otherwise, there are a bunch of fish out in the open water. People are getting them open water trolling or scanning around with the live scope, finding the fish they want to cast on, and throwing out some big rubber baits. Now, if you guys are looking for a place to stay or you're looking to hire a guide up on Mille Lacs Lake, we highly recommend Castles Resort located in Isle Bay. Jeff and Kimberly run a great operation there. If you're looking for a place to stay, they do have some availability with their ice castles parked right on the shorelines of Mille Lacs Lake, and they do have some cabin availability as well. Also, Castles Resort, they do have pontoon rentals. They run a launch service on the weekends, so if you guys want to rent a pontoon or get out fishing on a launch, go ahead, look up the schedule, give them a call, and reserve your seat. So, if you guys are looking to get up to Mille Lacs Lake this coming weekend or in the future, go ahead and call Jeff or Kimberly from Castles Resort. Alright, now moving over to Lake Winnie. The walleye bite on Lake Winnie is really starting to fire up. If you go out fishing on Winnie, you know a little bit of what you're doing out there. You are going to put some fish in the boat. As far as the techniques that people are using, I would say right now pulling spinners is the best, but people are still throwing jigs, they're throwing slip bobbers, they're pulling crankbaits, and they're catching fish on all of those techniques. Now, as far as where to target those fish, there is definitely a good population of walleyes up in the weeds. They're pulling spinners through there and picking off some really nice fish, as well as some of those walleyes have moved out into the deeper water. Guys are throwing slip bobbers on them. They're pulling bottom bouncers with a spinner behind, and they're having some success there as well. Now, as far as some of the better areas, the north end shoreline is always good. Lots of fish being pulled off of there. And then over on the southwest side of the lake, the river bar, they're getting some fish over there as well and pulling in some really nice big walleyes. Now, as far as the perch, the only perch reports that I have got have come from Tamarack Bay. Guys pulling those weed lines, they're getting them with spinners, and they're catching some really nice sized perch as of lately. Now, as far as the panfish bite goes, I'm sure you can still get some panfish out on the big lake, but I did get some reports from big cutfoot. The bluegills are up in the pencil reeds, 4 to 8 feet of water. They're throwing slip bobbers with the plain hook or a small jig. Tip that with a small leech or a panfish leech, a chunk of a night crawler, and you're probably going to catch your limit of 5 bluegills out on big cutfoot. Now, as far as the pike bite goes, doesn't matter what you throw. Like usual, the pike are everywhere. If you guys don't mind cleaning some pike, it might do some good to keep some of them pike. Just remember that the slot is 22 to 26, so if you catch them in between there, make sure you put them back. Otherwise, keep them smaller ones or a couple of bigger ones, and maybe pickle some pike or have a pike fish fry. Now, if you guys are looking for a place to stay up on Lake Winnie, highly recommend the Pines Resort. They have cabins, seasonal sites, campsites, full bar and restaurant, fish cleaning shack. They got dock boys there, live bait, whatever you could ask for. Go ahead, give Chad a call and get something booked up. I believe they do have some cabins coming up available. I believe it was June 22nd through the 29th. So if you have some availability there or later in the season, go ahead, call Chad, get that booked up, and enjoy some time up on Lake Winnie. Now, if you guys are looking for a guide out on Lake Winnie, Scott Zupfer from Zups Guide Service, he is the premier walleye guide out on Lake Winnie. He has been doing very well. If you guys want to get out fishing, catch a bunch of fish, but not just catch fish, you want to learn why, when, where, how. Scott is very good at doing that. Definitely worth hopping in the boat with him for an evening or two and learning the ropes out on Lake Winnie. So if you guys are looking for a guide trip out on Lake Winnie, go ahead and call Scott from Zups Guide Service. All right, now headed over to Leech Lake. The walleye bite on Leech had been a little bit tougher over the last few weeks, but that is starting to improve. They are still targeting that 7 to 18 feet of water. With the water temps rising, the fish are starting to bite more aggressive. And the best areas to target those are on those deeper weed lines or the deep rock structures. Now, they're catching them on night crawlers, leeches. They're still getting some on minnows. Whether you want to throw a slip bobber at them, a jig, or people are starting to pull some spinners out there as well. You can really use any technique you want, and you're probably going to pick up a few nice walleyes. Now, some of the areas that have been mentioned to me, the deeper weed lines in Sucker Bay, and then in the evening, people are pulling bottom bouncers with spinners along the trough edge in about 18 to 21 feet of water and having some good success there as well. Now, later in the evening, some of the shallower rock and sand structures, people are starting to pull crankbaits. Crawfish and perch pattern are the best, and you can pick up some nice walleyes in the evening pulling crankbaits as well. Now, the smallmouth bass bite, there is a smallmouth bass bite out there on Leech Lake, very underrated. There's some really big smallies in there. A lot of the rock structures out in front of Horseshoe Bay, some of the rock structures coming off of shore are holding some really nice smallmouth. A Ned rig, drop shot, or a slip bobber is producing some really nice bass as of late. Now, as far as the panfish go, there still are some panfish up in the northern bays, Boy Bay, Sucker Bay. They're catching them on the deeper weed lines. The crappies are a little bit harder to come by right now, but there's plenty of big bluegills up there to be had. Slip bobber and a chunk of a night crawler or a small leech. Or throw a tiny little jig, tip that with a plastic or a chunk of meat, and you'll catch them that way as well. Now, as far as the muskie bite goes out on Leech Lake, the muskies are extremely scattered right now. You got your shallow muskies that are hanging out on those shoreline rock spines, the weed lines, and then you got a bunch of them that are out in the open water, and a lot of them are being caught open water trolling. Now, one thing I will say, if you're going to go troll them big muskies out in the open water, try not to target those super deep muskies. It's extremely tough on them, especially as the summer goes on and the water temps continue to warm. Just be very cautious of creating any barrow trauma issues with some of them big, beautiful muskies. Now, the shallower muskies throwing big bucktail spinners. They're throwing some glide baits up there as well, some topwater, and they are catching some really nice muskies out there. Now, if you guys are looking to hire a guide up on Leech Lake Guide Team LLC, they have a awesome group of guys. I believe they have 9 or 10 guides right now, whether you want to chase walleye, muskie, pike, panfish, whatever it might be. They can put you in touch with the guide that is specific to those species, or they do have some all-around guides as well. So if you want to check them out on Facebook, their website, or give them a call, highly recommend Leech Lake Guide Team LLC. All right, well, that's going to do it for this week's fishing report. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. If you guys make it out fishing, take some pictures. You can send them to us on Facebook or to our Gmail, livinmnoutdoors@gmail.com. We will feature them in next week's fishing report. But in the meantime, hope you guys have a ton of luck. Remember, be kind at the boat ramp. Be respectful of other fishermen. Don't throw your trash in the lake. And most importantly, don't forget to get on out there and get living.